Okay, so I will hand over to Lena, one of the directors of the Confucius Institute at Bangor, and she'll be able to introduce everything that we're doing today.
Welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. We are delighted to welcome Mr. Manuel Pereno, who is a passionate speaker of Chinese philosophy. Manuel graduated at Brigham Young University, Hawaii, with a minor in Chinese language and BA in political science. His first experience of China was in 2008 while teaching English at university. He graduated with a 3-year master's degree in Chinese philosophy from Xiangtan University. And prior to moving to UK, Manuel worked as an intern doing research and public relations in the European Union office in Brussels, as well as an assistant in the management office of First Law International. So Manuel is a founder of Embrace China, a company offering placements for teaching English in Hunan, China. And today he will talk about Lao Zi's Asian philosophy, known as Taoism, which even after more than 2,000 years is influencing the lives of many people in China and around the world. Manuel will discuss the Lao Zi's belief of the duality of human nature and the fact that happiness is within everyone's reach. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Manuel Pereno.
Thank you very much. I am very excited to be here with you today. Thank you, Dr. Lina and the team at Confucius Institute at Bangor University for making this possible today. I would like to start by welcoming you to this new world of Chinese philosophy, this new way of seeing and understanding life. And I would like to start by talking about an idea or a concept. And I'll do so through some images. Here we have an image of Dr. King, who received the Nobel Peace Prize as he fought for freedom and social rights, civil rights. And here we have another image. This is a random image I have chosen of someone on the beach. And I'd like to ask for us to consider, what is the difference? I think of their actions, their attitude. And if I were to invite you to select an image or write down a sentence, what is it that took Dr. King to this situation in the image, in the picture above? One of them would perhaps be the Montgomery bus boycott, these peaceful protests because of the racial segregation in the transport system in Montgomery and Alabama, which later on would lead to him receiving this Nobel Peace Prize. If we were to consider what might have taken these young men on the beach to that situation, well, we really do not know what might be going through his mind or what might have taken him. He might be really considering how is he going to find a better job. But one option could be that he simply got tired of looking through Netflix for about 40 minutes and not finding what he wants, something that appeals to him. And so he decided to cross over the road and spend some time on the beach. The difference is the determination of each of these individuals, even the use of their free will. The application of this concept of free will with which we have been endowed is that, one, we have the power to choose what we want to do with our lives. It's in us. And number two, we need to choose between being an agent, meaning acting for ourselves, or becoming an object, where we go through our lives and are very much affected by the decisions of those around us, perhaps because we haven't quite made our mind. As a student, if one opens a book to see what information is in it, one is studying as an object. But if you take a question into your studies, you then open that book and read and study as an agent. And that's the difference. Some people choose what they want to do with their lives. Some people do not use their free will to not choose anything, which is in itself a decision. And some people choose to misuse this gift of free will. In Lao Tzu's philosophy, because his teachings of Tao are not forceful, it is crucial that one makes up his or her mind and chooses to make of Lao Tzu's teachings one's way of life, or that applies those teachings into his life so as to benefit therefrom. Today, I will speak to you about the law governing all laws, which is Tao in Lao Tzu's philosophy. And I want to start by asking a question. Why do you think some prominent scientists believe in God, while other prominent scientists do not? At some point in this talk, I will offer to you what I believe would be Lao Tzu's answer if he had been asked that question. Lao Tzu has a naturalistic view or understanding of the world. And with this naturalistic philosophy, he believes that we are all connected through Tao, and that we can act spontaneously, and in a very natural way, we will enjoy harmony in our lives. Two key concepts to better understand Lao Tzu are: one, the concept of inner nature. His belief that Tao has put in us our inner nature. Chuang-Tzu, a prominent Taoist philosopher, said, speaking of this inner nature that we have of Tao, that things obtained it so they could exist. A second concept, that of light, that Lao Tzu teaches us. He believes and teaches that of human beings, Tao has also placed in us an inner light. Tao's influence, if you will, or our conscience. I would like to spend now some time telling you a little bit about this Tao to help us make sense, as much as possible, of what this concept really is, of what that Lao Tzu teaches us. In this image, if I were to have to point to you to Tao, I would say that Tao is in the background, embracing everything. With this image, I'm reminded that Lao Tzu teaches that everything that exists in the universe has come from Tao, Tao being the first being, which makes us a product of Tao. Of animals, Lao Tzu teaches that the reason why they behave the way they do is because of the nature which Tao placed in them. And lastly, to review what Tao is, it mostly remains unknown. It is the source, again, from which everything has come, and it's found in all things that exist, be it things, animals, people. Tao also guides behavior, and because it does so, Lao Tzu trusts that we can lead a natural way of being and still be led to making right choices following natural law because of that inner light, which is of Tao that we have as human beings. The word Tao, one of the translations is the way, And Lao Tzu's philosophy with Taoism, what he pretends is to teach us that there is a right way to lead our lives. And in teaching us so, we are invited to reach our potential that we have as human beings. Fang Youlan, a Chinese renowned philosopher, writer, and historian, defined this potential that we have as the highest spiritual level of life, or the transcendental level of life. Tao is the law. And in Lao Tzu's philosophy, harmony comes always as a result of adhering or obeying this natural law. What we understand to be our conscience falls also under what Tao is. One of the things that Tao or does for us, or the way it affects us, is that it guides our behavior, hence our conscience. Tao is shapeless. It is also not a thing, nor is it a person. It's best understood as a force. And I think it would help also make sense of what Tao is by sharing something of what Tao is not. And I've chosen this image, a robot. If, for instance, I was to move like a robot to grab a glass of water, drink, and set it down like a robot, and continue like that throughout the day, my wife, for instance, here in lockdown, would probably very soon be bothered by it and tell me to quit it, to move normally, naturally. And the reason why that would be, it's because it breaks the harmony of the natural flow of acting and behaving naturally. With Lao Tzu, following our inner light, which is Tao's guidance of what's right and what's wrong, brings harmony. But if we give our backs to our better judgment and we act otherwise, we are actually blocking harmony in our lives. It is also interesting to note that because Tao is the law and we are a product of Tao, if we now decide to act against that better judgment that we have of Tao to ourselves, and it would be like trying to working on some tree, some wood to make an axe. And after I have finished the axe, when I tried to grab it, the axe started to move by itself, cutting whatever it pleased, instead of allowing me to direct it to cut. In our lives, because we have been created by means of a law, only following that law is going to nurture my inner being and bring harmony into my life. In the book Lao Tzu, or Tao Te Ching, we read this about Tao. Lao Tzu said, if one looks for Tao, there's nothing solid to see. If one listens for it, there is nothing to hear. Yet, if one uses it, it's inexhaustible. And so we can depend on these natural laws to lead a fulfilled life, to continue to learn and progress without limit, because Tao will ever be there ready to lend its power and blessings or benefits into our lives. I will now speak about how Tao works in the universe to help make sense of how Tao works also in our lives. So let me start this way. To create is not to get something out of nothing, which we have seen probably magicians do. They may show a hat and say, there's nothing, and then suddenly pull out a rabbit, for example. Well, instead, to create is to organize pre-existing matter. And how is this matter organized? It is by applying the law to it. So that the difference between chaos and cosmos is whether matter is being governed by the law. So chaos would be matter not governed by the law, and cosmos would be matter governed by the law. And there is a consequence or a natural result to each of them. Chaos brings and means disorder and death, and cosmos its opposite, order and life. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that by nature, things tend to disintegrate and to disorder. But going against this second law of thermodynamics is synthropy, a force that opposes that decline that by nature, everyone and animals and everything has to undergo. At some point, we will die and our bodies will disintegrate. I would like to share two examples of this force of synthropy with Christianity. One example would be the resurrection. After our bodies die and disintegrate, the resurrection is the force that will bring our bodies back into our form and shape and restore us. A spiritual example of how synthropy works in our lives is we have with forgiveness. We have all gotten into an argument or maybe done something wrong and felt bad because of it. And we feel remorse or guilt or simply uneasy, perhaps towards that person when we see him or her. But as soon as we decide to repent, when we approach the person and say, I'm sorry, and forgiveness is extended, one can breathe differently. There is no more this guilty conscience or feeling of simply being uncomfortable. In Lao Tzu's philosophy, Tao is that force that would bring harmony into our lives, as long as we adhere to natural law. So with Lao Tzu, so far, we have learned two things, at least. One is that Tao is the reason why we know what we should do. And number two, if we follow suit, then naturally we will enjoy harmony in our lives, greater inner peace even. Now, organized matter obeys the law with which it was created. We have said that the creative effort consists in applying the law to matter, and that when the law is applied to matter, we then have organized matter. Well, this organized matter then obeys the law that created it. Let me give you an example. What would happen if planet Earth, decided to disobey the laws of the universe? Let's consider, for instance, the orbit of the Earth around the sun, as well as its habitable zone. In this, I drew this green area to point at the habitable zone, the area in which our planet can have liquid water and we enjoy life as we know it. What would happen if the Earth decided to move further away from this habitable zone? As we know, Earth's disobedience would kill us. Lao Tzu said the following: Earth remains steady through its understanding of Tao. It is Tao that causes it. And were it not for steadiness, the earth would soon tip over. Lao Tzu believed that things follow what is natural to them. I'm quoting from him. Things follow what is natural to them, although they do not know they have a master. Now you may be thinking, what do you mean, the earth obedient? And that's what I mean to say. For Lao Tzu, animals as well. Both things and animals follow the natural course of life because they adhere to that nature that they have received from Tao. And because they do so, Lao Tzu says, fish swim and birds fly. It's for that reason that fruits hang off of trees. And these are the teachings of Lao Tzu. And he wants to tell us that we as human beings should also use our inner nature and follow our inner light that we have been given of Tao. For him, Tao represents the absolute truth. And anything that comes from Tao is good. Harmony, as I've mentioned, depends on whether we obey the laws. And Lao Tzu also insists that everyone knows, because everyone has this inner light. We actually know what the right thing to do is. So to sum this portion up, I would say that Tao transforms chaos into cosmos through the law. And in our lives, to the degree that we obey the law, we live in order. Let's consider on the human nature. How does this law apply to us? Well, I have said at the beginning how we are a product of Tao. Lao Tzu speaks of desire and how we need to free ourselves of desire. When he speaks of desire, he uses the character yu, which has a negative connotation. When Lao Tzu speaks of the need to free ourselves of desire, he means those things in the pursuit of which we are going to separate ourselves or move away from natural law, from acting accordingly, according to our inner light. And so for Lao Tzu, if one complies with Tao, we enjoy life. But if we focus on our desires, we miss really the fulfilling life that we could enjoy as regards natural order. Now, because we are a product of Tao, there are two very apparent or obvious truths that jump at us. One is that because we are a product of Tao, merely pursuing our desires is not going to nurture us. One example is I read in an article some months ago about a herd of deer that got trapped in the snow and away from their natural habitat. A group of well-intentioned people dropped truckloads of hay, although that's not what they naturally eat or normally eat, but they hoped that it would help the deer get through the winter. So they went their way, and when they came back, they found, sadly enough, that most deer were dead, with their stomachs full. And so Lao Tzu believes and teaches that if we pursue our desires, we do that in our lives to the detriment of our inner nature, to the detriment of strengthening our character and achieving or walking towards achieving what is our potential, as well as enjoying greater harmony in our lives. Point number two, because we are a product of Tao, then it makes sense for Lao Tzu that we have this inner light as well, Tao's guiding influence to help us in our life's choices. And so Lao Tzu speaks of desire versus our inner nature, two opposite truths. I heard at an YouTube, at an interview to Bruce Lee, I heard him speak about natural instinct and control, using the same terms that Lao Tzu uses when he refers to desire and inner nature. And Bruce Lee speaks of the effort that is needed in order to combine in harmony our natural instinct with control. And so we have here in a balance, as it were, both realities. And for Lao Tzu, we should not go to either extreme, but rather we should find a harmonious balance between these two. Our desires, given our physical bodies, and this is a character for Tao, and our inner nature, which has been given us of Tao. Don't you think it's incredible, interesting to note that choosing natural instinct will kill our control? But if we choose control, it will enhance our natural instincts, our abilities to perform. Lao Tzu spoke of helping others as key to a return to the original. I mean, he speaks of return to the original or return to your roots. He's speaking to choosing that lifestyle that goes in line with Tao's laws, with our inner nature, therefore. And so helping others becomes a principle or a law of nature that is going to help us to be fulfilled and happier because we are nurturing, doing the things that our inner person appreciates and feels happy about. I thought to myself, what do we teach our children? Look at what Lao Tzu is teaching us. In essence, who we are, and as a result, why helping others is going to help us in that return towards achieving that potential, a better understanding of life and harmony and inner peace. And if I were to speak to my child, to my son, the same way I read this sentence from Lao Tzu, one example of our conversation would be something like this. If my son came from school and said, "Dad, today I shared my lunch with Joe because, well, he forgot his lunch. And how did you feel?" "Oh, I feel good." Do you know why you feel good?" "The reason why you feel good is because you felt the Spirit. See, you're a son of a Heavenly Father, and He has created your spirit, which lives in you. And when you do anything that is good in His eyes, and we keep His commandments, you can then feel His Spirit, His approval, His love for you. Now, if I did this instead of giving him a pat in the back or taking him out for some ice cream or saying, "Oh, the boy, well done," while those things are good and I think should be done, teaching him about who he is going to strengthen his self-worth and how he sees himself as of what he can achieve. And this understanding is going to have a further lasting effect and more positive effect than even after I die. And so I thought, how meaningful that Lao Tzu would speak this way of helping others. The purpose with Lao Tzu's philosophy is to help us to return to our roots, and helping others is one of the things that he encourages us to do. But in our pursuit through following Lao Tzu's philosophy, in our pursuit to achieving our potential, or what Fang Yolang said, as I said at the beginning, this higher spiritual life, as we work towards it, what does it mean to achieve a higher spiritual level of life? For Lao Tzu, what it means is to have gained understanding of a truth. On the one side, Lao Tzu teaches us that we have our inner light, which tells us what we need to do. And that naturally of ourselves we already know, he says, because Tao has put that in us. But understanding comes after we do what we know that we should. And so, understanding, which is to enjoy a higher spiritual level of life, comes as a consequence of doing what my inner light tells me that I should do. Now, when it comes to knowing the essence of Tao, first we act and then we gain knowledge of that essence. This is what Lao Tzu, or how Lao Tzu put it. He said that to know Tao's essence, one must first act in line with Tao. But unfortunately, not all do. Lao Tzu speaks of 3 types of men, and he says, in the world, or 3 types of people, and he says that the lowest, upon hearing Tao, laughs at it. The second one, upon hearing Tao, is in 2 minds about it. And the best type of person, upon hearing Tao, immediately does his or her best to act accordingly. Lao Tzu also taught that to understand oneself is to be illumined. Let me break this to help make more sense of it. To be illumined, to know the essence of Tao. The light bulb comes out. Oh, now I know. To know the essence of Tao, or to be illumined, is to understand ourselves. But because we have an inner nature of Tao, to understand ourselves includes to understand our Tao nature. And how do we gain this knowledge of Tao? We just read it from the quote of Lao Tzu. We must first act in line with Tao. And so, to understand oneself, that understanding comes by adhering to Tao, which requires efforts as we learn to harmonize both our inner nature with our physical nature. Let me draw an image of what I have just shared with you. Supposing that this circle represents Tao, which I know is shapeless, embracing everything. But let us say that this is Tao. Lao Tzu said that in Tao is the essence, and that in it lie the evidences. One more time, we have Tao. In it is the essence. And how do we get to the essence of Tao? We just read it. We use our Tao light or knowledge, and we act on it. And once we are in the essence, in it lie the evidence, Lao Tzu said. I would like now to give to you the answer to the question that I posed at the beginning, what I believe Lao Tzu would say in response to the question, why some prominent scientists believe in God, while others do not. Lao Tzu, I believe, would say that it is because they, meaning those that do not believe in God, is because they have not seen the evidence, although if they wanted to, they could. Lao Tzu also said that it is by getting rid of desire that one can see the essence of Tao. And as we are obedient to this Tao knowledge that we have and enjoy greater harmony in our lives, in this state, we can then understand much better the nature of Tao. And because Tao has put in us our inner nature, consequently, we also understand better ourselves. we better understand which laws Tao abides by and which ones it won't, how it won't be forceful, for example. And as we act accordingly, we better understand ourselves because we are reaping the benefits through enjoying this harmony and better understanding in our lives. So, summing this up as well, the purpose of Taoism is teaching us the proper way of life and influencing us to hopefully act accordingly, as it teaches us about principles or ideas such as inner light and nature, and giving us examples. So Lao Tzu would say, be yourself, do, blend these two opposing forces and truths of your inner nature and your physical nature. And then you will enjoy harmony. And over time, you will understand yourself better, even to be illumined. Point number 2, we've said also that to know the essence of Tao, it takes acting first on that inner light that we have, or our conscience of Tao. Point number 3, or question rather, why would knowing the essence of Tao be important? Well, because it leads to understanding better who you are and therefore to being happier. I put together a brief dialogue between 2 students to help convey this philosophy, what Lao Tzu is trying to teach us. It goes something like this. So, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, school is going well. I have food, friends, I go out every once in a while. Really, life is good. Thanks. So, what's wrong? Well, I wonder, is there anything else to life? Is there anything that would make me feel complete or fulfilled? I really wonder, what is it? What am I not understanding? Now, who can do this according to Lao Tzu? Who can progress towards achieving our potential and enjoying greater harmony? Who can follow these natural laws? He says that we can all do it because we all know. And so he simply takes taking the decision, making the decision, choosing, although it takes effort, certainly. I'm not saying it's easy. Consider on the nature of the human being. And let me ask you a question for you to answer right now in your minds, please. Who has set a goal here before? Have you ever set a goal? Let's say you wanted to learn a new language, or you decided you're going to get up earlier so you can do exercise before you go to work or to school. Or you're going to be nicer to your sister. Have you ever set a goal before? If you have answered yes, then my second question is, well, why? What I mean is, why did you not just do it? Lao Tzu speaks of these 2 opposing forces, these 2 realities. That we have a physical body that is prone to follow after the desires of the eyes, but that we also have an inner nature that goes in line with our inner light, these laws of Tao and guiding influence of what we should do. And these 2 realities are difficult to combine in harmony. And so it would make sense that we need to work at it, and that it takes effort and even goal setting sometimes. I think that it is important to show that the reason human nature is evil is that it is lazy, rather than willing to act according to the good nature that we have within, or even the dictates of our inner light. And this would be how Tao works or interacts more personally with us through our inner light. Now, this understanding, to me, seems to make complete sense, even considering the order of the universe, which is a constant change that is worked on by opposing forces. Yin and Yang, if you will, the cosmic view of Tao. So with Lao Zi, we have seen that he seeks our own roots and to teach us that the reason why we can, or the way to enjoy harmony is to use our inner light, because who we are is the me within me that benefits from those natural laws. Because of his natural understanding or view of this world, he says, do not interfere in the order with other people, respect them and act spontaneously and naturally of yourself. We've said that the law has to be applied to matter in order for creation to happen. But it is the same thing in our lives. That creation or the enjoyment of harmony in our lives comes when we choose to apply Tao's laws in our lives as well, in our behavior. For Lao Zi, therefore, happiness or greater harmony is not defined by what I wear or what smartwatch or cell phone I have or I don't have, or where or which circumstances I am born under in life. Rather, happiness is determined by what I do with my life, by what and therefore how I feed my inner being. In as much as we are a product of Tao, and our nature is fulfilled when we act according to these natural laws, and this is why we can be happy. Lao Tzu says that everyone knows, we all have that inner light. And so we really all have this same potential to lead a higher spiritual level of life. And I would like to share with you. Again, Lao Tzu said that the reason why fish swim and birds fly, speaking in the animal kingdom, is because they follow their Tao nature. And he would like us and encourages us so that as human beings we do likewise. I wish to show a video that puts this forth, I think, beautifully. This video is taken from YouTube, and you'll hear the voice of Elder Uchtdorf, an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ. But what he shares in this video, I think is very appropriate to what we have been discussing, and I hope it will help further make sense and that you will enjoy it.
There's perhaps no other phenomenon in the animal kingdom that captures the imagination of man more deeply than migration. Driven by some unseen force that transcends the individual, entire species join together to brave daunting distances and trying obstacles to return to their homes. Some monarch butterfly populations migrate 5,000 kilometers each year to climates better suited for their survival. Some species of turtles travel across the Pacific Ocean from Indonesia to the coast of California. Humpback whales swim from the cold waters of the North and South Poles toward the equator and then back again. Perhaps even more incredibly, The Arctic tern flies from the Arctic Circle in the north to Antarctica in the south and back again every year. A distance of some 100,000 kilometers. When scientists study this fascinating phenomenon, they search for the answers to one of the biggest questions of all. How do they know where to go? And how does each new generation learn this behavior? Much of this is still a mystery. But as we observe this powerful instinct at work in animals, we cannot help but also ask the question, is it possible that human beings have a similar yearning, an inner guidance system, if you will, that draws them to their heavenly home? I believe that every man, woman, and child has felt the call of heaven at some point in his or her life. Our beloved Father in heaven has given us the light of Christ, and deep within each one of us, a heavenly stirring urges us to turn our eyes and hearts to Him. Some might suppress this yearning and deaden their souls to its call. But those who do not quench this light within themselves can embark on an incredible journey, a wondrous migration toward heavenly climes. When you walk the path of discipleship, when you move toward Heavenly Father, there is something within you that will confirm that you have heard the call of the Savior and set your heart toward the light. It will tell you that you are on the right path and that you are returning home.
So the message perhaps would be, do not quench the light within you. And Lao Zi believes that we can achieve our potential and lead a life filled with greater harmony, happiness, and inner peace. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Manuel. That was really, really interesting. We've had quite a few questions pop up in the chat. So if it's okay with you, I'll just go through and start asking you some of them. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the first question we received from Lena asking, would you say that Lao Zi's philosophy is focusing on diminishing any desires?
Yes, I would say so. Again, defining desires as pursuing those things that are against acting according to natural law. So he does not think, let me just make this note, that being tempted to do otherwise is bad, but to give in to those desires is what's wrong. And certainly, as he speaks of the sage or the ideal man, the ideal is, as we progressively do our best to follow inner light, to become more one with Tao, which naturally means to suppress those desires, including. So yes, certainly yes. Thank you.
Good, thank you. We've had another question from Gwilym. I hope I've said your name correctly. I apologize if not. They've asked, what if the concept of God was easily confusable with that of Tao for scientists as potentially for anyone else?
I did not understand the question very well. Could you repeat the question?
So what if the concept of God was easily confusable with that of Tao? So I think this is maybe referring to your comment about scientists.
Okay, yes. Thank you. Oh, that's a very good point. Thank you so much. I thought of it as I went. So yes, although Lao Zi does not say, hey, God we have been created after the image of God, as we read in Genesis. He speaks of Tao and of how people laugh at Tao, and he also speaks that we are a product of Tao. So when I said God, what I meant to do is to put in perspective how in Chinese philosophy the concept of Tao is something that permeates our lives, and if we let it, through following the natural law because of our inner light, it's going to bless our lives. Just like in the Christian world, we learn of God, and if we follow his commandments, as we read in the New Testament, we are going to be blessed. So I did not mean to say Lao Zi spoke of God. I meant to say, when Lao Zi spoke of Tao and those that follow it and others laugh and don't, it is like those people in the Christian world that would say, or in the West, that would say, I don't believe in God. It's the same concept, but I framed it using God, simply to help put in perspective, and hopefully help you listeners better understand how Lao Tzu sees Tao, and how people that hear Lao Tzu's teachings may react to it, and why some would acknowledge Tao and some won't. Namely, some would follow their inner light and see the evidence and the essence even, and some wouldn't. Just like some people turn their backs on God and some follow him. I hope this makes sense and hopefully answers your question.
Yeah. I think it does. We've had a couple of other questions that maybe overlap a little bit with this one, or from what you've said as your answer. So we've had a question from Kunyan asking, do you think Christianity follows the way of Tao?
No, I think Christianity follows the way of Jesus Christ. And I think that Lao Tzu was inspired. I believe it. And I actually, my own study of Chinese philosophy has helped me, has enhanced my understanding of certain principles of my own religion. But I do not believe Christianity follows philosophy. I believe that philosophers were inspired and that they taught truths that we can find in their writings, which does not have the name Bible or scripture, but I believe there are still truths to be found here. I believe scientists are inspired of God as well. And technology has been invented because man's mind has also been inspired. So I see a relation in God's spirit and influence touching everyone, but I do not see Christianity following Lao Tzu, as you mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Then the next question we have from Janet. I don't know if you've maybe answered this already then in what you've said so far, but Janet has asked, were you suggesting that the outcome of following Tao is an eventual belief in God or a God?
Thank you. Well, not in, thank you. Again, the reason why, and this I will have to revisit to make it more clear, the reason why I put this, and this is only my fault that it wasn't clearly understood, the connection between God and the religion. When you study Taoism and you want to follow its philosophy and you learn those laws and principles, for instance, helping others or not overdoing things or not overkilling it, I think the saying goes in English, you see that it's true that sometimes you overdo things and you get the reverse from what you were looking for. And so you learn to, at least I should be patient. I might become more or less patient, but I should. And you learn certain principles or ideas or truths in life. It's the same thing with Tao, but that doesn't, whether that takes you to believe in God or not, it would be something separate, because it may, but the understanding of God or the concept of God, who has sent his son Jesus Christ, and that we being created in his image, is so opposite to the concept of Tao as shapeless, embracing everything. Yet in their teachings there are similarities, but there would be different beliefs, and following Tao may help you believe in certainly a supreme force, but it wouldn't describe the God that the New Testament teaches. But it may lead to a belief in something, certainly.
Thank you. We've got a maybe a slightly different angle of question now from Dimitri, asking how is Stoicism philosophy different to the way of Tao?
How is Taoism different?
I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Sorry, Stoicism.
Oh yes. Okay. Thank you. So Tao is about doing your best according to your knowledge. And instead of saying, okay, I'm going to prepare myself for tomorrow because I just have this future that is going to come to me and I need to be prepared for it. So I'm going to do this thinking about tomorrow. Instead of that point of view, Taoism teaches about acknowledging life as it is and respecting things as they are. And that if you follow natural law, you will already be prepared for what's coming, because as you follow natural law, regardless of your circumstances, you will enjoy harmony in your life anyways, and the other benefits that come from it. So there is that different perspective of, I'm working now so I can prepare for tomorrow, versus in Taoism, I'm simply doing today what today is going to benefit me, and that's already going to help me tomorrow as well. If that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. So we've got a couple more questions if you've got time. Kunyan has asked, currently the competition in life is very fierce. So how can you compromise this with Tao? So do you need to quit competition, or can you, still try to win?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's a very good question. Well, trying to be your very best self is a worthy endeavor, and I believe we should pursue it. But if you're asking me about trying to be the best, and at the same time following Tao or Lao Tzu's teaching on Tao, then I would say that for Lao Tzu, on the one hand, and I'll just point this out, knowledge is making distinction of things and naming this and that, which means they're opposites. Ideally, one goes through that phase and transcends the distinctions of things, meaning understands that everything and everyone, we are all connected to Tao. And so the way you measure things is against Tao or natural law, not against things that are all around you, different opinions, different ideas. And so all your concern is, are you going to follow natural law? And that's what's going to lead you to really your potential and the best things that you can achieve. And that leaves no room for competition, if that makes sense. But if we're talking, having said that, talking in our present day, I still believe that we should learn as much as we can on whichever field we have chosen to learn. But Lao Tzu sees this difference between knowledge as making distinctions and what they call, philosophy, Chinese philosophy or Taoism philosophy calls knowledge that is no knowledge, which means stop making distinctions and compare yourself to Tao and try to be one with Tao. And in that regard, there's no competition, again, only against yourself. Again, I'm focusing on Lao Tzu's philosophy here now, as I think she's mentioned both today's competition and Taoism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are coming up now to 2 o'clock. I'm not sure if Lena has any final comments. I don't think we'll have time to get to the last couple of questions, unfortunately. Lena, I'll just check if you're still muted, sorry. You should be able to unmute now.
Well, no, thank you very much, Manuel. That was very interesting talk. There are many other questions, and we could have gone in a deeper discussion on Tao and desires and many other things, but we don't have time. So maybe we'll have another talk in near future, and then we can touch on these things.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much for agreeing to give the talk for us.
thank you for allowing me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you everyone for attending. I hope you enjoyed it. Yes, we will organize other talks in the future.
We do have a feedback form. If anyone is able to give us some feedback about today, I will just add that into the chat as a message. If you're able to just click, it's only a couple of questions just to give us some feedback to help us organize more events in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Manuel.
Likewise. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.